Hello, welcome to episode 2 of the CV2 Basics by Random Architects. Join the club, man. Search it on your clubs tab. Subscribe to Dave at Satcon Cook, and you should also subscribe to me at RNDM Racing. Anyway, Dave's back here with me, and I'm gonna explain to him how to do something that I was asked this week actually by a couple of people a couple times, and want to go over more about the event receiver and how you can do simple things to enhance your room a little bit. All right, so hopefully we will be able to see the chips better this time. My bad. We're learning over here, so yep. But we have the blackboard, and we're gonna go over something. This is a very simple one, but when I go like kind of in order of things we were doing before, we'll eventually get to other projects like teleport guns and actual projectile launcher user-created guns, and how to make maybe even like a CV2 PvP that you can check out on Frighttown 24/7. So we'll get to that. But for now, simple things that you should know in order to kind of understand things. So, Dave, in some of our maps, usually when you join, you get like a message, right, that welcomes you. And it's super simple, but a lot of people don't know how to do it. So let's go over that one today. And the first thing we're gonna need, like the other time, is an event receiver.
And our maker pen.
I think I didn't mention this. Oh yeah, and the maker pen, of course. One thing I didn't go over the event receiver last time, that just to add to it real quick, is event receiver just means that something happens in order for it to receive a signal. There's event receivers, event senders, and event definitions. With event definitions, you can create your own event. And an event can contain information. It's like a package, right? You send the package has certain things. Maybe it has a number, maybe it has a player's name, maybe it has, whatever information you want to put into it, you can kind of send it. And the way that these event definitions work and the event senders and receivers is the way that we get from the game to change if something is local or not local. Event can be sent to all, can be sent locally, can be sent to others, which means I trigger something and then I tell everybody else in the room to run something, but not me anymore. So these kind of things is to control the flow of like, where is something going? When a button gets pushed, who is getting notified about this button getting pushed, right? And so one of the ones that is really, really, really useful is the one that we're gonna use today, that is called player joined. That's basically a chip looking for every time someone is joining the instance. So if you think of the instance as a server, right? When someone new appears, it's like a little doorbell goes off and the server knows, oh, someone just joined, right? So we can take basically advantage of that to run a bunch of different things once that happens. But also we can control who is gonna know or what is gonna get triggered for whom and not for someone else. Right. So, for example, in this example, the player joined welcome message, that is what we're going to do. We're going to configure this event receiver and turn it into a player joined. It's going to have two outputs. It's going to have an execute, which is, what I would always keep calling the electrical charge, right? That's where the power is coming from. It just makes things run. It's literally just like having something wired on a daisy chain. And then we're going to have a player that joined, right? So he's telling us that someone joined, and then when someone joins, a little bit of current is going to go out of it. But it's also telling us who joined, right? So if we were to put, we have two chips that are widely used for welcome messages and for other kinds of notifications when you're inside rooms. One is the actual notification, and the other one is the subtitle. The subtitle is actually already localized. It only shows for one player. So the way to make it show for everybody is that the chain runs for everybody. That way everybody sees it. But the chip itself is only for one player, right? The notification, on the other hand, was kind of made so that everybody will see something on their screen. But as we can probably hear from Dave, is maybe something you do not want to abuse.
It's horrible for VR because it takes up the entire middle of your screen and makes everything else around you dark.
So it has like a vignette, I'm guessing, right? See, that's the thing. I play on Xbox, and for you guys out there that play on mobile or on console or on PC flat screen, you know that the notification is not that bad. Like it's kind of small. It shows up in the center of your screen. It goes away. That's it. It's actually pretty quick. That's another difference between the subtitle and the notification. That the notification cannot, you can't actually change for how long it's going to be displayed. It's just a notification. That's just the way it works. But the subtitle can be controlled. You can select how many seconds this is going to be on your screen. But after a lot of playing, I also have discovered that, yeah, VR players not the biggest fans of notifications. So let's always try to go for the subtitle instead, unless it's something like really, really, that doesn't happen that often and that is really important. Something like game start, game end, you know, things like that. Or maybe if you're making a PvP, when you die, you can show, for example, I think on Frighttown I show a notification that says the name of the player that killed you. But since you're already dead, and at least in that game you can't move for like a couple seconds, it's not that annoying because it's not affecting your gameplay. Like you're still in a place, you're perfectly still and dead for these 2 seconds, you get the notification, it goes away, you keep playing. Right? So maybe in those situations I feel like the notification could be implemented, but let's just stick to subtitles for today. So we're gonna put a show local subtitle chip.
All right. Show local subtitle.
Yep. So here you can see that the show local subtitle has three options on it: the subtitle, the duration, and the priority. Priorities, maybe some of you have seen before.
Think they can see
Maybe
it
we
now.
can move them a little. Yeah, maybe we can move them a little bit lower so you guys can see it more to the center of your screen, right? Somewhere around there. So the priority works the same as you guys may know from other things like the background chips in your map, the CV1s, right? When you're assigning a skydom for like a player role, you want them to be nighttime or daytime or sunset or whatever you guys are doing with those. The priority is like an override. Is basically telling the game or your game specifically based on something like having a role or not having a role or things like that. In this case, just based on the priority itself, what's more important for you to know. So if you have a complex game like a PvP where maybe you have a lot of subtitles popping up at different times, you gotta let the game know. You gotta let your circuits know what is more important for your system to let the player know about, right? So maybe health is more important than the fact that you earn a little bit of currency every few minutes, or the fact that someone joined, right? Because you want to be more aware of tracking your health. So that's something that you can prioritize. That's literally what it is. And the duration, obviously, like we said, there's no duration on the notification, but here we can change it. I think usually for a welcome message, at least for me, like about 6 seconds is kind of good because it gives you time to see it. A lot of people kind of don't pay attention when they're joining the map, especially on screen, because you're on a loading screen and then you appear and you have a few seconds, you see it, it goes away, it's all good. And then what it says is the subtitle, which is a string. A string is basically just text. It takes numbers and letters and everything and doesn't consider them into any sort of mathematical situation like an integer or a float would be. Those are considered numbers that, have like a use in algebra or in vectors or in any other kind of thing. But if you have a string, it's just literally text. It's like a text message. So that's where we want to place our welcome text, right? So let's see, we will put welcome to tool time on the subtitle and make it 6 seconds. That's a good thing. And while Dave is doing that, you might ask, well, what happens when this runs, right? So we're right here, Dave and myself, in the recording studio. But if someone else, like famous TikToker Sand, were to join, what would happen, right? It would basically send the subtitle to everybody. And so every time someone joins, everybody gets a notification of welcome to tool time. But we don't want that because you were already here, right? Dave's been here with me since we started, setting all this up, and I've been here as well. Why do I need to be welcomed? You really don't. The reason why you will have it like this would be, again, just to mention Frighttown again, whenever someone joins, it tells everybody, oh, this person joined the battle, I think it says. So you know that there's another player that's going to start playing in the game, right? But in this case, where we're going to do a welcome message, we're going to need to localize it so it only runs for the player that joined and for no one else that was already in the map. So that way you don't spam everybody with welcome messages every time someone joins. Make sense?
Sounds good to me.
All right, so for that, we're going to take out a chip called if local player should run. That one will take the execute, so it's like our current, it will take a player as an input, and then it just has two outputs that basically say should run or should not run. It's very simple like that, right? So what happens is that we can have, for example, two messages. So we're going to connect our execute to the local player should run and the player to the acting player, right? That basically means that if I plug this welcome message to the should run, only the player that joined, this player, is gonna see the welcome to tooltime message, right? But we can take advantage of this also on the other way, because if we do something like clone this subtitle, right? And now we have two subtitles that are gonna run off of it. And then we're going to use something called toString. That basically takes any sort of other kind of data, turns it into a string. And we're going to need something called a string format that allows us to take that string and add it into a bigger string. Into like it's like taking a word and putting it in a phrase. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have this string, we're going to grab the player that joined, turn that into a string, right? And then we're going to use that on our string format to type. Whenever you are working with strings, it goes on 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 in between brackets, depending on how many strings you're putting in your format. And we're going to type 0 in between brackets, space, just joined.
Oops. We're talking. I keep running into the board. Sorry, I'm trying to draw the symbol that you're talking about here. We're talking about the.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Let me crawl on the floor. This one and a 0 for this index, right? That's pretty much.
Right, right. Basically, that will grab the first string on our list because on this string format, we could add more strings to it with our configure tool. But for now, we only need the one string, so we're going to stick to that. Zero is usually what you're going to use. This is very useful because you can turn anything like a player name, into a string. So that turns it into text that then we can put into a phrase that says someone just joined, and then we're going to put that into our subtitle, and we're going to run that on the should not run. And now basically what's going on here is that someone joins and that player gets said to themselves in a subtitle, welcome to tool time. But for everybody else that was already here, like Dave and myself, we would get instead a subtitle that says, this person just joined.
Makes it easy.
And it all gets, yeah, and it all gets really triggered by someone joining. So it's not running constantly. It's not going to take a lot of heat or networking or anything in your map. And it's usually like a very, nice thing to have that will make your map feel a bit more welcoming and just more fleshed out, because sometimes I feel like it's the little details that make a place feel more special. And talking about that, there was this one map that we have, and you've seen it in the skate park as well, that we can basically have also a welcome message that is displayed as text in the map somewhere. So you can have it on your welcome board near your buttons, or you can have it in a wall somewhere, right? Which is what we do on the skate park. We have a message that says, hey, player name, can you do a kickflip? And well, we can go about how to do that real quick, because it just the other example that we did last week, this one is a very simple thing that you can just keep adding and adding and adding and adding a lot of stuff into it. So if we get our text gadget, I guess they're considered gadgets still. I don't know. They keep changing the names of things.
That one doesn't want to snap to circuits, so here I'll put it. There we go.
Okay, there we go. That's good. That's good. So let's oops.
I guess
Let's
I should have put it
detach
down at
this
the bottom.
board. All right, and then I'll just move it.
I'll throw this one up on the board and we'll connect it to.
All right. So we have the show notification, doesn't really give you any options except for a string. It doesn't have duration, it doesn't have priority. Actually, notifications just override each other. So what we're gonna do here is, for this text, is gonna clone this string format, right? Because basically, the subtitle that you're getting when you join just says "Welcome to Tooltime." It doesn't really say your name, which you can do with something like this. So if we were to grab this same to string, right, we'll plug it into this second string format, and then I'll just put for the string "Welcome to Tooltime," comma, and then in brackets 0. That's just gonna grab the player's name. So it's gonna say, if I were to join this room and we have the circuits here running, right? Now here, it's gonna say, welcome to Tooltime, comma, Robbie, exclamation mark. That's basically what's happening on this one down here. So we could do, you can plug this actually directly into the subtitle and make it a bit more personalized, right? Again, you don't need it in reality, but it's a nice touch. And then we were gonna grab that one, same one, and we're gonna plug it into the text of our text gadget. And we're gonna plug, there's two subtitles here, right, that are running. We're gonna plug it into the one that is local, so for the player that joined. And that means that after he sees the subtitle in the room, wherever we place this text gadget is going to display welcome to Tooltime and the player name. One thing that you do have to decide, I guess, because it's actually more of a choice. The text, if you configure it with your configure tool, it has a synced button, right? It does have a synced button. So this is triggering the text to change. So for example, let's say Dave joins this room before I do. So the text is going to say, welcome to Tooltime, Dave. But then if I joined, he's going to say, welcome to Tooltime, Robbie. And he is going to see, welcome to Tooltime, Robbie, instead of Dave, right? So you can keep swapping the player's name that joined. The last player that joined is the player's name that gets displayed on our text gadget. But if you don't want that, there is a way that I feel actually that is a bit more fun, and it's unsync your text. So on your configure tool, you go inside the text itself and you just toggle that sync to off. And that means that everybody will trigger the text to change, but only for themselves. So all the time that you're inside the map, that text is going to say, welcome to Tooltime and your own name. We can test it out real quick. So I way to test things on the
I put another event receiver
event
up there.
receiver.
Oh, never mind. That works.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see that. So on the event receiver, we also have a test event. It's literally called test event, and this is really why it's there. You can trigger a lot of things with it, in places where you have like obviously MakerPen access, right? So we plug this to here, and I run the test event. You go into your MakerPen and use circuits and debugging, send test event, right? And then that is gonna trigger. Actually, that's not gonna do anything because the thing that we do not have, and this is like, see, this is already learning because this, if local players should run, never got an acting player. It just got the execution, but it didn't have an acting player. So that's where you get an error. You don't have the information to keep your daisy chain going, right? So how do we actually make it run in that case? Well, there's a chip that is called get local player. We're gonna put that there, and that basically means that that chip just tells everybody their own name. So for me, if I were to mouse over with my connect tool over this yellow tip over here, it says player Robbie, right? So if I plug that in for now into this acting player instead of the player joined, and I send the test event, the other thing that we need to do if we're going to test the circuit right now just for testing purposes is that the player that's getting turned into a string is also not there, right? So we also need to plug in this get local player into our string, because before there was basically no name inside the string, and if there's no name inside the string, once it tries to set the subtitle over here, it says like, well, sure, but you know, which text do you want me to display, because that's a non-existent text. So now if we actually do send the test event, it told me welcome to Tooltime Robbie, and for me it says welcome to Tooltime Robbie over there, but Dave can't see that. So
Nope.
if he now sends a test event himself,
There it is.
now it says welcome to Tooltime Why the Dave. And so we both see different things, and we both got the welcome message at different times because we send the test event at different times. So that's certain, control about who sees what and when
Right.
can
Yeah,
always be run through understanding what is local and what isn't.
I'm going to switch over to POV just to kind of show an example of what the subtitle looks like here. So we got send test event, and there's a subtitle. I see it kind of floating behind everything.
Yeah, so do you have any questions about this, or do you kind of understand, or is there something that is a bit confusing?
So if we were to turn this into a notification, the big yellow screen that I said I didn't want to avoid, it'd still be the same concept. Right. We just put the show notification where show local subtitle is instead.
Yes, so if you want to test that out, we can plug the show notification instead, and then the text. So we're just gonna replace it, right? And then we're gonna grab the same string format and put it on the text value, the string value of the notification. There you go. So now if you run that same test event,
yeah, see, it darkens my screen and it's like hogging up a huge chunk of it. And when you get it multiple
all right.
times, it's like, why? I can't see anything.
And I don't see that, for example. I mean, besides the fact that it doesn't look like that to me, when you did the test event, it didn't run for me at all.
Right. Because it's all local.
Because it's all local. So yeah, that's the difference between a local event and a synced event. A synced event happens for everybody at the same time, right? If you have a light that turns on, think about it kind of like in real life, right? If I turn on the light in a room, it turns on for everybody because that's just how real life works. Okay, it's all synced. But in the game, we can choose to have local events. And the reason why a lot of people will prioritize local events, besides these kind of things like notifications and subtitles and welcome messages and things like that, is because you use less networking, you use less CPU and heat and stuff, because basically you're running one thing for the person that needs to run it in their own system, in their own console, in their own phone, in their own VR headset, right? They're the ones doing the processing, and they're the ones that, if something is really heavy on processing, they're the ones that get the lag, but nobody else does. And that is why local events versus sync events are also, good to understand, not only because of displaying things or not displaying things, but because you want your room to be in a way optimized to not take so much load and not make it very laggy for people. All right. So that's it. That's the only kind of question you
Yep,
you
that
had
was
over
it.
here.
Oh,
Oh,
one
great.
thing I
That's good because
remember.
that means it's
So
simple enough.
I
Yeah.
remember one thing we talked about with the text. Sometimes the text gets broken for players, and you want to do the configure on the text itself and change it to have a local
Right.
message. Did we talk
The
about that?
text itself, no. So basically, what happens is that the text will have a pre-loaded message that isn't just like text. So if you go into your configure tool and go in here, you'll have a text box.
POV. Here we go. So
Right. So if
tools
you go
configure. If
on
I click,
your configure tool and then click on the text, right now it's unsynced, but there's also a message that right now might be green and displaying welcome to Tooltime. Why did
yep.
Dave? But if we were to have it before we ran the test event and everything, you can type a message that is going to get displayed as the room loaded if you don't have anything that changes it. And the reason why you want to have that, even though in this case we're literally changing the text every time someone joins, or when you join, it changes for you. What happens is that sometimes you will not load the circuits. It's a known bug. I'm sure you guys have experienced it, especially in rooms that have very heavy use of CV2 chips and things like that. And when that happens and you don't load the circuits and you're bugged, you won't see anything. You will just see text, right? But if you have that configured from before, it will say something else. So you maybe have welcome to tooltime, and then on the player joined, you have welcome to tooltime
They won't
player
get the
join,
fancy
the player
name.
name. Yeah, they won't get the name
Different
in there, but they
for
will see
bugs.
something at least, right? And the last thing that I want to show you is that, see, right now, Dave, as the cameraman that he sees welcome to Tooltime Dave, right? But if I
Right now,
sync
I just
this
changed
text
it.
right now,
Yeah, I
oh,
typed
you
it
just
in, so
changed
it
it.
said "Welcome
Okay,
to
so,
Tooltime."
but if
Yeah.
I sync it, right now I just sync the text and I send a test event.
Yep. Now it says "Welcome to Tooltime, Robbie."
Now it says welcome to Tooltime Robbie because the text is synced, so everybody sees the same thing. Even though it was a local event that made the text change, when you sync the end, it still changes for everybody.
Cool.
Well, hopefully you guys got that. Another simple video. Check out RNDM Architects. We're gonna be both on RecCon on, I don't know the dates.
23rd, 24th, and 25th.
You know the dates.
Yep.
All right. So make sure to check us out and stop by and say hi and whatnot. And this room right now, Tool Time is the name, is public, so you can come visit it and see it for yourselves. And if you wanna, use it for something, feel free to do so. Yeah. Thank you, Dave, for all the help, and I guess we'll see you guys next time.
I want to say, if you want to be in any of the videos, want to be the ones learning the circuits, we could definitely use a third person in here, because as you see, every time I look away from the circuits, they disappear. It's kind of hard to be cameraman and the player.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. So
good stuff.
send in applications, obviously. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, reach out. It would be cool. And hopefully we can have some of these events either live streamed or actual events in the game where you guys can come and maybe ask some questions about either CV2 or building or something else. We'll figure something out. But yeah, I appreciate you all watching, taking your time, and yep, see you guys next time. Ciao.